Hi, Christos Paloukas here again with my friend Robert Abela. Robert Abela is from Melapress, the former WP White Security. Robert, you want to go ahead and continue the introduction?
Thanks a lot. Yes, I'm Robert. I'm the CEO and founder of Melapress. Originally, we're WP White Security, but we renamed 3 years ago. We named it to Melapress. I live in the Netherlands. I'm originally from Malta. As like almost like any other WordPress business, it all started as a hobby. Like while I was at work, a bit of scripting and stuff, part time. It became full time. I'm originally from Malta, as I was saying, but I've lived a bit in Cyprus, in Scotland, and now I've been living in the Netherlands for the last 6 years. Yeah, that's mostly about me. Yeah.
Malta, Cyprus, Scotland, which is like way north, and you ended up somewhere in between.
It's funny because we went like Malta and Cyprus. I think Malta. I'm sure Malta gets more sun than Cyprus. I'm not sure in terms of days of sun per year. Technically speaking, I went almost from the brightest country with the most sun in Europe to the one with the least sun, Scotland. So
Oh yeah, that's true. Cyprus is actually it's not the most northern point, a southern point. Fun fact, I'm getting off topic already. We haven't even started.
Which is fine.
The southernmost point in Europe is Ravdos, this island that's like, I don't know how many nautical miles out south from Crete.
Okay.
On the line. And then it's Cyprus. But you're the only person that I've met actually from Malta. Malta's so small.
It is. It's a very small country. I think something like 24 kilometers by 14, something like that. Of 1 million people. Yeah. I mean, like it's not the first time. Like I meet a lot of people like, oh, you're the first Maltese, but it's.
Yeah. What is that like? Did you grow up in Malta?
Yes, I was in Malta until I was
that like?
23, basically. I've seen it change a lot. As in, like when I was really young, it used to be like a what people would picture of like a Mediterranean island, like quiet life, more relaxed life, going off into the beach and stuff, and stuff like that. But unfortunately, the last, I would say, 15, 20 years, got a bit overdeveloped. It became almost like one big city. It's overpopulated now, and it's no longer that calm life. I mean, I still believe I still go once a year or every 2 years as a holiday destination. It's a very great place. But to live there is different. I mean, like it also depends on what you look for. For example, I really love the outdoors. I really love going out and stuff. We do have some outdoors, but it's no one's fault, but it's still a small island. It's still a small place, so it's very limited, Like where I live now in the Netherlands, I live by the border next to Germany. So I don't live in the busy part of the Netherlands. It's much more just get the car within 15 minutes. We're in forest, a few hills and stuff. So and that's another reason. But growing up was nice. But it became now like one big city. But if you're still young, like maybe you're looking for a career in IT and having a bit of fun in the evenings and stuff. I think one thing that I enjoyed in Malta is one big benefit is it's very small. So literally, like wherever you live, unless there's traffic, within 15, 20 minutes, you can be by the sea. I remember the last job I had in Malta, we used to work in a place called Tashbish, and we used to have like 30 minutes lunch break. And me and a friend of mine, we used to literally like get the towels to work, walk literally 5 minutes, jump for a swim, dry ourselves up, and go back to work. So that aspect is nice. It's very convenient to live there. If you're like, everything is nearby, and like lifestyle, especially if it's always sunny weather. So during the evenings, kind of like people start going out. Like here, it's a cold country, the Netherlands, even when I used to live in Scotland. So after 8 p.m. or 9, you don't see any people outside. Where it's the opposite in Malta, people start coming out after 9, because usually, especially in summer, it's very hot. So you go out after 8 or 9 to eat something, and they live more like the evening life, while here they live more during the day kind of thing.
Oh, I see.
It was nice. It was nice growing up here.
That's like a very similar lifestyle for the islands in Greece. So I'm originally from the States, actually, outside of Chicago, and I moved to Greece, not back to Greece because I was born in the States. On April 22nd of 2010. 15 years. 15 years
Wow.
in just a few days.
Wow. But
Uh,
yeah, originally, I guess your parents are Greek based on the name and
yes.
surname.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. A.S. Paloukas. Yeah, definitely a giveaway. Oh, now that you mentioned that, before we get into the questions, how many last names do people have in Malta? Like, is
Uh,
it?
I have only one, but there are some people who have like two sometimes or three. But yeah, like typically one. Usually it's two. Like my wife has to because like she wanted to keep her surname. So you can either keep your surname, but she wanted both, so she kept mine.
Okay.
She got mine and kept hers. But yeah, typically one is pretty much normal. Yeah,
I was
it's the
curious
norm.
about that, like culture-wise.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know like some countries have like different kind of like norms when it comes
Yeah,
to these things.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. We have plenty of time actually. Do you want to give it like an intro to how you got involved in like the IT space and everything? Maybe like, okay, well, let's make it the first question actually. Let's go off script. Off
Yeah,
script is more fun. So how did your
exactly.
background in IT actually start, and how did you make that like pivotal switch to security oriented things?
Yeah, good question. I've always loved computers. I remember, I think my first experience of computers was through my cousin. Her
Hmm.
father had bought her an Atari. It was still with the cassette player. Like you
Yes,
load
yes.
games with the cassette, you have to wait like for 15, 20 minutes for a game to load.
Hmm.
So I always loved them. I think when I was starting secondary school, so I'm presuming 11 years old, 12 years old. Yeah, I got my first computer. It was an Amiga 500 plus, I
Okay.
remember. Yeah, Amiga.
Damn.
Yeah, from Commodore. Very old, yeah, with the floppy disks.
The
Um,
large ones, right?
I remember those,
Small.
but mine was modern, so it had the small ones.
Oh, okay.
Like, yeah, because those were like 5 inch, I think, or something like that. The small ones were 2.5 inch. I had the
Okay.
3.5. Yeah, so I started with that one bit of gaming. I started like learning a bit. It came kind of like with a book, and we had like I forgot, it was basic, I think. Yeah, definitely not Visual Basic, but yeah, some basic. So I was always like playing around and stuff. I went to some like my parents sent me some basic courses back then about basic development. Back then it was like creating a multiple choice stuff and like learning basic development. What's a variable, and stuff like that.
So your
And yeah,
parents actually supported your use of computers at a young age.
yes, that's true. Yes,
Oh,
correctly. Yeah,
that's interesting.
and yeah, and then I think it was 16, 17. I got my first PC. It was a 486. It's funny because back then we had the option for the same price. You could get either like 486 with CD-ROM or Pentium 1 without CD in terms of pricing, so I got
I'm
the
I'm
yeah.
lost. You remember all these details? Wow.
Yeah, I'm 44. Yeah. I'll be 44 in June. So yeah, I started playing around with the PC. Yeah, doing some basic stuff, like basic development, just fooling around. And then I started studying electronics, industrial electronics engineering kind of thing. Yeah, about resistors, transistors, and circuitry and stuff like that.
Okay.
But a friend of mine, David, was working already for a software company in Malta called GFI Software. Uh, and yeah, and after my first year of studies, then we had to find a sponsor because Fellenberg, the type of school, it was like the first year it was full-time school, and then the next 3 years you had to find like 2 days at work and 3 days at school. It's like a sponsor that you find
Oh,
work that is you find work that is related to your studies, so you get also like hands-on experience.
yeah.
Yeah, and I had found a sponsor, and basically it was a computer shop. Yeah, hardware back then. But yeah, back then we used to fix motherboards. Like we used to like change resistors, change some ICs and stuff.
Really?
Yeah, and fix monitors and stuff like that. Yeah, I used to do all that. And I remember at GFI they had, and since I had a bit of experience after a year working there, I had a bit of experience with kind of like hardware/drivers. I
Okay.
remember David, he used to work at GFI. Told me like, hey, we got some new servers with SCSIs. They're having problems with drivers. They were using Windows NT 3.5 and stuff. Yeah,
Amazing.
it's the different word. So I went to take a look. He told me that no one can install them here. We're having problems. So I went. I was just playing around and stuff. And I managed. And I remember the boss and founder of GFI, Nick Galia, he just passed by like, "Oh, you did a good job. Thanks. Like, would you like to come and work with us?" And simple
Yeah.
as that. Yeah. And then I started basically as software tester, a bit of support, and slowly I worked my way up to systems engineering. I used to love networking a lot. I still love it, but yeah, back then, yeah, networking
Do
and
you?
stuff. Yes.
No, I started with networking, and I was so happy that I abandoned it.
No, I like it. I
Don't-
had like CCNA and stuff. It's just,
yeah.
yeah, like I think, to be honest, systems engineering maybe, yeah, it's a job for not necessarily for younger people, but it's like it's such a, as the company grew, by the way, when I was at GFI, I was like the 20th employee. And before I left after 8 years, we were like around the world, around like 200 people. So like we really, really grew. And systems engineering, especially with such company, can be like really stressful. Like really, you learn a lot, but it's also really stressful and really demanding. And back then it wasn't like today. It wasn't like you have online hosting with Google and this, everything, you know, like I used to go to Germany, you know, like we used to buy the servers, install them in Rex, you know, and stuff. It's for hosting and stuff like that.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
thinking of a world without remote connections like that. Wow.
Yeah, we used to use terminals here, SSH, for example, you know, like command line. So yeah, it was very, very different. Yeah, and I always stuck to computers then. Like I was systems engineering, then GFI was acquired. And I after GFI, I had another two, three different jobs. It was the same owner, Nick Galia, but he had different companies. So I went a bit more into R&D, then I went into product management, and stuff like that. Project management, a bit of kind of like pre-sales engineering and stuff. So anyway, I was getting all this experience. And at Akinetics, my last official full-time job, yeah, we needed a blog because back then blog was, I think it was 15 years ago, 14 years ago, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I found out about WordPress basically. Yeah, and I started playing around with WordPress and stuff at home. I always used to, since I always worked in computers, they were also something that I liked. So whenever I went home, even at home, I was always like fooling around with computers, networks, you know, trying new stuff. Like we used to get a lot of hardware at GFI. So sometimes we used to like need to set it up. So I used to get it home. I didn't have time at the office, set it up at home, you know, just playing. I honestly, genuinely, it was like genuine love to computers, you know, technology.
Yes.
Yeah, so then I found out about WordPress. By the way, all the companies I've worked for, GFY, Akinetics, they're all like, they all had develop security software. So I was always like all the teams were security people. And of course, I was systems engineering, so you have to make sure systems are secure. So I was always learning from people and stuff. I've done a couple of courses back then. So yeah, and I always loved this whole aspect. So when we started using WordPress at Akinetics, again, WordPress back then, not like today, but back then it was the beginning of WordPress. So at the early days. So yeah, in terms of security, there weren't so many options. In fact, I remember Tony Perez and was Daniel Sid starting Sukuri. I remember we had a few chats online.
Sukuri.
Yeah, I remember them like starting it. They were literally just doing some basic scans, basically of websites. I remember, yeah, those times they were literally like just starting off, basically. Yeah,
they're an authority too. Like all the security news I get is either from Scurry or from Threatpost.
Yeah, Threatpost is yeah, exactly, yeah. And yeah, we started using WordPress. In fact, we realized, yeah, there's a lot of opportunities when it comes to WordPress. We tried something at Akinetics, but yeah, back then, like online services weren't so popular yet, so we tried something, it failed. But anyway, and I stuck to WordPress basically. And from there, well, I was working with Nick for 14 years by then. So yeah, it was time for a change, basically.
Yeah. Okay.
And yeah, like I said, like, let's give it a try. You know, I was just playing with WordPress. I started writing some. I met Jean Galia from the Mayor, kind of like introduced me more to the WordPress. And then I went to the first WordPress WordCamp Europe in Leiden. So I got like the field for WordPress. Like, whoa, it was already like something up and coming. Yeah, and it basically started cleaning head websites, writing some blogs for myself, just literally like almost the blog posts were more like documenting my findings more than any actual, you know.
Makes sense.
yeah, exactly. Started cleaning some websites, learning, and then I was surprised. Like, it's a multi-user system. Like, how come coming from a security background, kind of thing? How come there's no sort of logging, kind of thing? And yeah, I try to develop some. I'm not a developer, by the way. I mean, I can read and write code. I can write something, but
Yeah.
what I usually do in a week and it's broken, a developer can do it properly in half a day, basically.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, I also like, because I was cleaning head websites, I was always like, oh, it would be nice to have some sort of logs, in WordPress, what's happening. And also back then I thought, oh, maybe keeping a log of what's happening in a database or in a log file is the easiest type of development. So I started like writing some basic stuff, just trying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I developed the first version, which was horrible, of course, of the plugin.
Okay. Every first version is.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Slowly, I started getting some traction. I had a friend who had also left a Kinetics ex-colleague who was working, but he started putting in a few hours in the evening on the plugin. I started putting a few hours in the evening, on the websites and stuff. And 13 years later, we're here.
Oh,
a team of 7 people. We have 4 plugins. Yeah, but that's how it all started, because it was a whole, I think, 6 years, because I've been full-time now, I think 6 years, maybe 5-6 years. So yeah, the first 6 years was, as I said, a bit of a hobby. Maybe after 2 years, we released the first premium add-on. By the way, back then, premium add-ons were still like, whoa, unheard of almost. I think Yoast was the first plugin I've seen that was like premium, then Sukuri, like the first ones, yeah. And yeah, I started seeing some money. By the way, money, I remember like the first year we've done something like $200. But yes,
okay.
It's still, and yeah, slowly it became, part-time. Then I was doing, of course, to support what Melapress, which back then was the part security, I was doing, of course, some other freelance work, like technical writing and stuff like that. But slowly I transitioned from the hobby into part-time and doing freelancing. And slowly I was stopping with customers freelancing and doing more work with Melapress. And the switch was like, I wasn't sure, because then I was at a stage where I had a developer full-time. I could afford to pay the developer full-time via the money the plugin generated, but I didn't have enough funds to support myself. So I was still doing, it's funny because I wasn't the first full-time employee of my own company, so I was still doing freelancing. But then customer I was working with, they wanted me to join full-time. I didn't want. I said like, now is the time. So I just like went in, and slowly, it was a bit rough, of course, the first few months, because I didn't have enough money funds to support myself as well. But slowly started working, and there we are.
Wow, you took to the deep end. Were you like concerned, scared, worried that it wasn't going to work out, maybe?
Yes and no. I said like, no, because kind of I was expecting, I said like, my plan was like, okay, I'm going full-time in 2 years, because I was like roughly seeing the revenue was going, so I can go full-time in 2 years. And this offer came in like, okay, just join us full-time. Actually, they wanted me to join them full-time and keep the plugin business, but it was difficult to check it at the same time. So basically it helped me take the plunge and jump in directly into it. It wasn't scary, because I kind of like was waiting for this moment to happen. So I had some savings. So I knew if it really went bad, at least I had around a year and a half where I could still pay the mortgage, still pay for the shopping and stuff, and still kind of like live without any income.
Yeah, okay.
But we made it. It was good, because it was good that I switched earlier, because I realized once I switched full-time, then I realized, I have a lot of time. So now is the time to, I could sit down every day, 12, 13, 14 hours, and just focus on the project, rather than having freelance to generate money. And then maybe in the evening you're tired, you have to still put in 4 or 5 hours, And when I switched full-time, that of course, that sped up the development of the plugin and of the business, and the revenue and stuff like that, basically.
Cool. So everything started with a WP activity log.
Correct. Yes, it was a blog about security, and
and then in sequential order, what were the other 3?
Yeah, so we had WP activity. Back then it was WP security audit log, which we renamed, I think 6 years ago or so.
Okay.
I'm going to the why we renamed it. But then we had it was a plugin which today is Melapress login security.
Right.
It's basically a plugin for, you can do login policies, password policies, change the
Mhm.
login page URL, a lot of login hardening things. Actually, it was, to be honest, back then I was still experimenting, so that took some time, because first it was called Password Policy Manager, and I wanted to try Code Canyon. I don't know, is it still common nowadays? I wanted to sell through Code Canyon, so I said, like,
Yeah.
instead of having the .org and self-hosted premium, I just want to go to Code Canyon. It
Mhm.
wasn't bad, but yeah, like I said, might as well give it another shot, like hosting it ourselves completely on .org and then with the premium plugin. So that was that one. Then we had WP2FA, which is a 2FA plugin for WordPress. Uh,
Cool.
and then we acquired Captcha for WP, which is a Captcha plugin. And after that, just we have two other small plugins, like website Melapress file monitor. It checks your website for file changes, and admin notices manager. It basically helps you manage those admin notices in the WordPress dashboard.
Oh, that's cool. The last one.
Yeah, yeah.
So if we take them backwards,
But this one is more of a hobby, basically, more than anything else. It's not
that's
nothing.
how Melapress started, from what you're telling me.
Yeah, but yeah, it's kind of like a side project. And just a few months ago, we released Melapress Role Editor, which is basically a plugin which helps you create custom roles, custom capabilities, and
Oh,
stuff
that's
like
cool.
that. Yeah,
So
but we
the
have
last two
some
are kind of
interesting
functionality.
plan. Yeah, but we have some interesting plans for the Role Editor. That's why I said the other one is a hobby, because admin notices manager is just like, there isn't much where to grow. It's nice, it's handy, it's useful, because we needed it.
Mhm.
So we don't have much plans apart from maintaining it, of course. But the Role Editor, for example, yeah, all of the plugins, you have WP2FA, WP Activity Lock, Melapress Role Editor, we have a Melapress Login Security, we have a long vision for them, like a long.
Yeah, it
a
looks
lot
like
of
you're
plans.
covering like all the basics in security too. So you got accounting down with the WP activity log. You have authentication, authorization
Yeah.
with 2FA and the login, the security login
Security,
plugin.
yeah,
It
exactly.
file integrity, very important. You know, shit can go wrong on your.
Yep, it is. Yeah.
So you have file integrity. That's cool.
And now the roles, roles, capabilities, and stuff like that. Yeah.
All right. Cool. Wow.
Yeah, it's like, and anyway, what we're trying to do, as in, like, we have a different, because you have these security solutions like WordFence, Sucuri, and stuff.
Yeah.
I think every solution has its place, kind of thing, in the market. But Sucuri and WordFence and these type of solutions, they're more like all-in-one solution. You have the firewall, you have to have everything. And the thing is, like, those plugins are good. Actually, they have a very good place in the market. But as businesses, like, I look at our customers, we have more like the bigger business customers. Usually they want, listen, maybe they have their own third-party firewall and they want just a more robust 2FA solution or a more logging solution for compliance and stuff, So we do more like a single role plugin kind of thing rather than all different things,
No,
And
that's good.
there's a difference because
Compartmentalization.
exactly, it's not just that, but also, in fact, we even, like, sometimes even people come to us like, okay, how did you hear about us? Like, WordFence told us about you, because WordFence, for example, they have an activity log, which is good for day-to-day websites kind of thing. But if you want, whenever they ask WordFence, like, listen, we want like more details, WordFence themselves, they're like, go to WP activity log, because if that's what you're looking for, details,
Okay, that's good.
So-
It's collaboration
yeah.
with your businesses too.
Exactly, which is nice. So yeah, we cater more like for like, the way I look at it is like cameras. Like, on your mobile, you have a camera, which is very good, but it's still not as good as an actual SLR. If you need to become a professional photographer, then you need an SLR, And yeah, you have that kind of comparison. Like, Sucuri and WordFence are more like, their main focus is mostly firewall, but they do other small stuff like activity log 2FA, but it's like the camera on the mobile. But then if you want, if 2FA for you is important, like as the camera it is for you, kind of, like something that you need to expand on because you have many users, different roles, different type of 2FA methods, Passkeys and all of that, then of course you need something like W2FA more than the 2FA that comes with WordPress kind of thing.
Makes sense. I'm gonna cut you off so we can get to the second question because
Sure,
we're
definitely.
a little short on time. We still have time though. But the second question does have to do with everything that you just said right now, because now you're talking about like all the different products and how you're managing having, I don't know, specific tasks per product or per plugin. So you're experienced in both the security world and the product management world now, right? How do you approach like balancing out the features and making it all user friendly?
Yeah, user friendly. That's a very good one. In fact, I think that's what kind of made W2FA popular. We used to there are a few good 2FA plugins out there actually for WordPress, and I used to use them on our own websites. But it was like as we started getting more people on board, we needed something like it's kind of like it's easier to use, and like most 2FA plugins out there are designed from developers for developers or people, or they expect that people know what TOTP is or HOTP is, you know. So yeah, in theory, what we've done is just use the same methods, but just put a wizard on top of it, you know. So, and then it became easier to use. So, but in terms of keeping them easy to use, first of all I try to compartmentalize per plugin, and I think the most important, I listen a lot user feedback. I mean, of course, there are users who will tell you, who give you good. You cannot keep every user happy, otherwise you're not developing a product. But yeah, I think even when I talk to other product owners, sometimes they are surprised. I still do support, and I gladly do it. Like every morning, not necessarily. I do take some tickets myself, but I still triage all the tickets, go through them just to see, you know, maybe sometimes you might spot an interesting feature request, or maybe you might spot, oh, there are these people always, like the last 3 weeks, we've seen 20 emails about this feature that, I don't know, they had this issue, they couldn't understand it, maybe it's not designed, maybe it's from our side, the feature is not designed good enough, you know, there's something we can improve there. So that's all about it. It's just like literally I have few different, I use like Asana, I have a board for each plugin, for example, and I'm always keeping as much notes as I can. And yeah, every so often, basically every 3 months or 4, it depends. Yeah, 4 months or so, I just kind of do some sort of spring cleaning. We always have a roadmap for each product, of course, but we're still a small company. So we get, sometimes a feature comes like, oh, this makes sense. This, maybe we should, you know, like give it priority more than others. So yeah, and every few months I go to these cards, I see what makes sense. I try to write as much as I can, ideas, even if I think at that day, if someone tells me something and I think it's a wrong idea, I still write it down, because you'd be surprised, like 1 month down the line, that might make sense.
Okay.
And then, as I said, once every 3 months, we have the roadmap already, but once every 3 months, I go to these lists, say, maybe we can fit this in, maybe we shouldn't fit this in, maybe this can be done later. And yeah, some notes I just delete. Okay, this, yeah, after 3 months, it still doesn't make sense, for example, you know, or it's a very a specific edge scenario where only one customer might ever need it, you know. So it's like, is it worth it to do it? No. And that's something else, like what goes in the product or not. We always look kind of like at the 80-20 rule. I mean, there are some features, like you cannot put all the features. By the way, that's also something else, how to keep the product easy to use. You cannot just put all the features. It's very easy to put in new settings. Oh, let's just put the setting. Let's just put the setting here. But easy to use software in an ideal world, it should be almost all automated, as in like you shouldn't even have to configure anything. It does everything for you. It understands you, you know. I mean, we're not there yet, of course, we're far away, but we always try to, should the setting go there, or maybe should we try at least to guess what the user typically would want, and then maybe the setting shouldn't be in the main interface. Maybe we should have like an advanced tab, you know, just trying to do these things to keep it as easy to use as possible. It's also, I think sometimes it's very difficult for product vendors. It happens to everyone, even myself. When you are in the product, any of the products, and working yourself in the product, sometimes it's difficult to envisage or imagine how the user is seeing your product, how they are using it. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I like to see support, because sometimes you receive these emails like, I never thought people might use our plugin for that specific thing, you know, like the activity log. Sometimes we thought that was the reason why we named it, because logs are associated with security. My background was coming from security, and yeah, it was a WP security audit log. And with time, we realized our plugin is being used more for, it's still for security, but more for like user accountability on e-commerce stores, on stuff like that, you know? And in fact, as soon as we changed the name, it became more popular, but more exactly, like more adopted by more users, you know, because it became was less security. It's still a security tool, but it became more like, oh, we can do this with it as well, you know. And all these ideas, basically, we get them by listening to the users, basically listening to the users or trying to understand how the
Brilliant.
users are using it, or who your users are, which is like, the biggest.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm going to segue into the last question because we have a couple minutes left.
No worries,
Actually, the last question, you already answered it. I was going to ask about, besides WP Activity Log and the other main products that you guys have, what are you looking for in the future? So you could reference back to those 2 plugins real quick, and then
right now we're very busy, of course, with Passkeys, implementing Passkeys into FA. I'm really looking forward to expanding the role editor, the new plugin, Melapress role editor. There's a lot that we can do that other plugins aren't doing, which I'm glad about. Otherwise, it will be, of course, a bit boring. Yeah, I mean, like, that's all about at the moment. Definitely no more new plugins at the moment, just sticking there. And in fact, the next few years, I want to just focus on growing what we have rather than keeping it. Because sometimes maybe you stretch yourself too thin, and that's where you start getting issues. Maybe the quality goes a bit, you cannot maintain the same level of quality. So we're just now focusing on these. We understood what we have, and we're just building on top of that. That's for us. That's maybe, hopefully there's some place. I know it's a trend now for AI. Maybe we'll find something, but we're just focusing on building more easy to use solutions, basically.
Awesome. Wow. Well, there you have it, folks. Robert Abela, Melapress. They've done a lot of work. He's got a burning passion in him for, I don't know, all things tech, WordPress, security.
Yeah. No, I like
and I love the way he presents everything. There's a very special energy.
Yeah, I'm glad you see that. I'm glad. Now I'm really passionate about it, and I'm lucky. I have a very great team around me as well. Because on my own, I wouldn't be able to do it. Definitely.
Awesome. Yeah, that's all. It's all about teamwork at the end of the day, and you're a community kind of person that you could tell.
Yeah. No, I tried. In fact, I met you at WordCamp Europe. That's where I
WordCamp Europe in Athens.
In Greece and Athens. Yeah. It was nice. Yeah, it was a very nice WordCamp, that one. Yeah.
Definitely. I hope to see you in Basel. Well, I guess that's all I got for you today.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, thanks for having me, Christos. And
thanks for being on the show. Thank you so much. All right.
Thanks.
I guess we can say goodbye to everyone now.
Thanks. Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.